but that's I think once it's a break, I think you need that break before you I would say re-energize or rejuvenate, I would say. Okay. All right. So since we have like left our class for about a week, so you have hopefully you have a really good break. And because of that as well, I think it's good to open our session today with a new topic, a fresh topic from what we had in the previous class, right? And basically, chapter 7 onwards is the detail of what you have been learning before this. Okay, we are talking about external environment, we are talking about internal environment, and we are talking about moving forward and ensuring that, okay, the company perform. So basically, whatever that you are going to do from this particular chapter onwards is basically the extension to whatever that you have learned earlier on. We are moving towards the detail of it, okay, slowly. And this particular topic is about international strategy. It's all about creating values, all right? Whatever that you're doing, basically, when it comes to strategic management, it's about creating values, all right? So throughout, these are the processes and the procedures, the things that people do, okay, not just a process or procedures, the strategies that people do to actually create values. And when we talk about creating values, it's not just within, but outside. And when we talk about outside the organization, we are also talking about not just within the country, but also outside the country. All right. Some people would like to have business only within their district. They don't want to expand outside the district. But to some people who are entrepreneurial enough, all right, okay, you can see the words, okay, the that I'm using, okay, the vocab that I'm using. I'm not talking about businessmen. I'm talking about entrepreneurs. Okay, what's the difference between entrepreneurs and just a businessman? What do you think? I want you to know that particular difference. What's the difference? Just like how people ask, what's the difference between a manager and a leader? Or a boss and a leader? It's two different things.
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay. For entrepreneur, in my opinion, I think the entrepreneur is a person who start an enterprise with a new idea, while businessmen will start the business with existing idea.
And with existing idea and just talking about offering product, they're not thinking about any expansion or moving forward, right? So that's where you need to be clear. The reason why you are studying this strategic management is to make sure that the businessmen do not stay as just a businessman, but you want this particular businessman to be an entrepreneur. All right. So you don't want to just sell your nasi lemak just outside your house, but you also want to expand your business within other housing areas and basically expand throughout the district and eventually getting bigger and bigger. So basically that's what entrepreneur is all about. All right. So in this particular context, we are so much busy looking into the kind of strategy that you do within the organization, basically within the managerial level, right? And then we are talking about the corporate level strategy, which we talk about the direction of the organization. Now, out of the direction of the organization, when we talk about corporate strategy, it can also involve international strategy, right? So international strategy is part of your corporate level strategy. Okay, it's because corporate level strategy can be executed within the country or outside, right? So when we talk about international, we are talking about moving out. So imagine yourself in Malaysia, you have a business here, and what we are talking about now is how are you able to penetrate the global market by looking into this particular types of internal strategy that you can do, all right? So when it comes to this particular context, throughout from your first chapter until now and until the end, basically what this text is all about is creating value. And creating value is not just about creating value within, but also creating value outside, okay? Within the country and outside the country. That's why you see here that we are talking about global markets. Okay, here are some of your learning objectives, which by the end of this particular chapter, that you should be able to have a good understanding on this particular area. All right. Why is it that it's important for you to go for international expansion? All right. And then what's the advantages, basically, and why you see that some company are very successful only within the country, but they are not successful when they go outside the country. But there are some businesses whereby there are no acceptance within the country, but once they start going outside Malaysia, all right, they are well accepted in other countries. And you will see some examples whereby some of these particular entrepreneurs, once they're successful outside, they have create names outside and they are famous outside Malaysia. And once they start to come back and penetrate the internal market, that's where people start to recognize him. And only then he or she is able to create the local market, the demand in the local market. All right. So basically what is this particular international strategy is all about? Give some examples. What do you think? Why do you think that some of the companies that you're familiar with, all right, are very well known in Malaysia, but they are not quite accepted in other countries? And there are some of those who are, they are well known in other countries, okay? Malaysian companies, they are well accepted in other countries, but not within Malaysia. And some of those you find that they are accepted both locally and internationally. So basically for you to move forward and for you to be accepted wherever you are is for you to create some values. Once people know about the values that your company is having and the values that you are planning to actually create, that's where you will start to be noticed. All right. So it's very important for you to create activities. Okay. In the context of business, okay, we are talking about the value chain activities that you have that can actually create values. What do you understand by value creation in this particular context? Is something that is so important when we talk about strategy. Strategy is always tied up with value creation. Why?
Because
Yes.
we depending on customer, investor, employees, is it?
Yeah. How would that come about in the context of creating the values among them?
How? By by know what their needs.
By knowing their needs. So basically, you are providing something for them
Yes.
and they're happy with it. And when they're happy with it, what do they do?
They will invest or buy from us.
They will invest. So basically, what are you creating there? What is it that you are creating there? What kind of relationship or the bond that you are creating there? When they start buying from you, what is it that you get? You're saying just now, okay, you start giving them something good, of something that's of quality, and your customers like happy with you and come back to you, and your investors are happy with what you are doing and start to invest more. So what is it that you are creating there?
Profit.
Yes. The trust that you have between you and your customers basically will generate more profit. All right. So when you are generating more profit, what does that mean? Slowly, what does that mean? Your company is performing well, right?
Yes.
Yes. So when it
Company
starts to
will,
perform well, what next?
company will sustain.
Yes, company will sustain. Okay. So basically, you are creating reputation there. All right. A good rapport between you and your stakeholders. You're talking about your stakeholders, you're talking about customers just now, you're talking about your shareholders, okay, and your investors who are the shareholders. So basically, you are creating a good rapport with these particular stakeholders of yours. And that creates a positive what? Reputation. All right? Something good. So when you have something good there that you are creating, okay, there's a bond between you and them, okay, and the element of trust starts coming in, and they trust you, okay, in whatever products that you investors they trust you in terms of how you're going to use your money, right? So that's the kind of reputation that you are creating. And that's the reason why you have to perform and you have to do your business ethically, all right? And that's why you learn about ethics in one of those particular chapters that we had earlier on. Okay, we are talking about governance, and that's why you learn about governance. So basically, it's to maintain that trust, all right, and to ensure that good reputation sustain. And because of that particular reason, you are saying, all right, your customer keep on coming back, so you get profit. A continuous profit makes you sustain. When we talk about sustainability, we are talking about you will still exist in the future. So basically, that's what strategy is all about. And there are various ways to create that particular scenario. All right. So one of those scenarios that we want to create is the scenario where you create values that will help you to sustain. And the kind of strategy or ways for you to move towards that direction is international strategy. It's one of, I'm not saying that this is the only one, but it's one of the strategy. If you feel that you are ready to go outside Malaysia with your business, then you have to start thinking of what would be the best international strategy that you will go for, okay, in order for you to create that particular values globally. When I say creating values globally, it's about gaining your competitive advantage, not just within the country that you are in, but also outside. So, what's globalization got to do with international strategy? What do you understand about globalization and what's the implication on international strategy? Balon je. Ni penat nak fikir banyak-banyak ni. Ha. Hmm. What?
Company atau business to develop international influence atau start operating at international scale.
What you are saying that basically globalization is about?
Business at other countries. Not in just our countries.
Okay, you're talking about having business just not within the country, but also outside the country. Okay, you're talking about, okay, that's one of the points that you understand about globalization. Yes. What else?
The exchange of human being, technologies.
Exchange of human being. How do you exchange human being?
No, me, just technologies. Technologies.
Yes, so you're talking about exchange of technologies. All
Technologies,
right.
yes.
Okay. So what does that got to do with globalization, exchange of technologies?
So we must adapt the
But you have to adapt with the new technology.
yes.
So basically, the points that all of you are saying is that, all right, you're talking about the growing independence, okay, of the world economies, okay, the world economy, whatever that you are doing, your culture, whatever activities that we have, all right, we are talking about how we are very much depending on other parts of the world, okay, the contribution given by other parts of the world. That's where you start moving from one particular country to another. That's where the influence of technology starts coming in. So basically, all this is about globalization. All right. How culture is no longer confined within where you are staying, but there are certain types of other cultures that start to emerge. And certain culture that you have, okay, you start to actually, you know, bring in your culture and penetrate into other people's culture, and you eventually end up with a multiculture. So basically, that's what globalization. And when you start to depend on one another, all right. So basically, I can't survive without you in your country. We have to do some sort of a business, because why? Because the people in my country depends a lot on whatever people in your country. Because of what? Because of this particular globalization and how it expands. And now when we're talking about business, with the technology, with the internet, there are no borders anymore. So globalization starts to penetrate into all this new type of business and the new type of business model. All right. So that's why you see that even if, okay, you are selling something that's from other parts of the world, you can still get your market here. You become what? They use the model with a platform, okay, internet platform. That's where you don't have to actually keep your stocks. All right. The kind of business where people use drop ship. All you do is you become an agent and get the orders, and the products will come from another different part of the country. They will send it straight to your customer. And your customer may not be just within Malaysia, but your customer can be all around the globe. All right. Why do you think that globalization have got an impact on international strategy? The reason is being influenced by, what do you think? What do you think? What will be the influence on that?
Influenced by the technology,
Mm,
by social media. Technology, I mean,
media, basically, there are a lot of influence there. All right.
so people in our country may know in others country things that they were interested to buy. So
Okay, basically technology comes in various form, whereby the use of technology comes in various form. Okay, so because of the internet itself, okay, you have all this use of social media for people to actually expose themselves in the context of business, where people from other parts of the country will actually know what they are selling. And basically, globalization creates a new market segment. All right. Because of the interest that comes from people from around the globe, you have the opportunity to have a bigger market segment. All right. So because of that, that's why people are chasing for this particular new market. So it's important for you to use the international strategy to develop that particular new market. If you can develop your market here in Malaysia, you'll be able to develop your market in other parts of the world. If you don't like my product here in Shah Alam, okay, I can sell my products in JB. People in JB likes my product more as compared to people in Shah Alam. And that's the reason why you see some business, they are very successful in one place, all right? But when they start to open up in another place, they hardly could get any customers. Okay? So why this thing happens? Because the needs of people from various places are different, in which need to be understood before you actually come with a strategy that fits to actually attract them to be your customer. So no, one size doesn't fit all right? Even though you are going for globalization and you need international strategy, different company, different nature of business will actually use different type of international strategy. And in our context, it is good for us to actually understand why certain type of business are successful in certain places and why some are not successful in certain places, like I mentioned to you just now. All right. If you heard of Jimmy Choo, have you heard of that? Who is he?
Fashion designer.
Yeah. When did he start to be known in Malaysia? Jimmy Choo dia tua dah lama dia jadi fashion designer. Masa dia jadi fashion designer dekat Malaysia tu tak siapa kenal dengan dia. But when he starts to be famous in the UK, in other countries, then only people start to know him and people start to, get to know who he is and knows that he's a Malaysian, and he starts to be famous where? Not in Malaysia, but abroad. And only now that he's able to come back and, build up his business here because why? He's already famous. His brand is already famous abroad. And only then now that he's able to bring it back to Malaysia. But when he first started, nobody knows about him. He did not create his background as a fashion designer, a famous fashion designer in Malaysia. Why do you think that happens? Why do you think that happens? One way for you to analyze that particular reason is by looking at this particular model. Okay, this model can actually help you to see why certain business or certain people cannot make their names here within, but can actually make their names and be famous somewhere else. All right. So these are this is one of the model that you can use to do your analysis on that one, which is called as Potter's Diamond of National Advantage. Okay. So basically this is used for business, but why I mentioned about Jimmy Choo just now is why you think that, okay, why his business is only known now and not before at the earlier career of him as a fashion designer. He was actually famous, he's like famous in the UK, then only he can bring back his name here. So if you want to know the reason, perhaps you can actually use this particular model, okay, to help you analyze in that particular context. So some of the elements in this model which you can actually use as a medium for you to analyze is factor endowments, demand conditions, related and supporting industries, firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. These are some of these particular factors that you can actually look at and analyze why he's successful in the UK and he was not successful in Malaysia at the early stage of his career as a fashion designer. In some texts, you will find that they use the word factor condition, not factor endowments. All right. Some books will use factor conditions is also correct. What is actually a factor condition? It's about the land, capital, or the labor. Okay, we are talking about factors that are specifically for that particular industry to survive. The support that they get perhaps from the government or from that particular location itself. All right. And from the people around them. So when we talk about all these particular factors, when you start analyzing all these factors, then you start to actually understand why some people are famous here, all right? But they are famous here, and once they start going outside, they are no longer famous. But some people are having that situation the other way around. So basically, these are some of those particular factors that may affect that particular situation. So what does it mean by factor endowments? And the example given here is actually land. Why do they put there as one of those are land, capital, labor? Look at this from the economic terms of land, capital, and labor. Senyapnya you all. Cubalah you all bercakap sikit. Kalau you all ada depan mata, ya Allah, memang I goncang-goncang seorang-seorang. Don't make me talk alone.
For example, land, madam.
Apa dia?
For land,
Maybe
endowment.
yes.
So we can, for example, natural resources such as oil, maybe
Okay.
ada maybe for some country they have oil, so easy. So they can produce petrol like that.
Okay. So basically, okay, the natural resources in that particular country may support certain nature of business and may not support certain nature of business. All right. Let's say you are there, okay, with the nature of business that actually being supported with the natural resources in that particular country, high chances that you can be successful in that context. All right, like what you say. All right, let's say I'm opening oil and gas company in Malaysia, but in Malaysia does not actually producing oil. Would I be successful? I might not be, because there's no natural resources pertaining to oil and gas that I can get from this particular country. I might have to seek it from the neighboring country, which makes the business more expensive. All right, unless, for example, that if you your business is in Malaysia, your nature of business is oil and gas, and Malaysia itself do have that natural resources, chances of you to be successful in Malaysia is higher because of that support you get. When I say support, we are talking about your source of natural resources for your business is available at a cheaper price in that particular country instead of you going to the neighboring country and sourced for it. All right, so that's one of the example basically why some of the nature of business may not be successful in certain countries and may be successful in other countries. Okay, so when you talk about land, we are not just talking about land as in the form of tanah, but we are talking about the natural resources that's available in that particular country as well. What about capital? What about capital?
Limited capital.
What do you mean by that? What do I understand by the terms capital?
Dal.
Apa dia? Lain pula bunyinya. I dengar apa benda dia cakap ni?
Modal.
Modal. Okay.
Sistem
So,
modal.
jadi?
Is the capital needed for to remain competitive?
To remain competitive. So, where would that particular capital comes from?
Bank, the government.
Perhaps some support from the government. Yeah, maybe you are into certain type of business which are actually promoted by the government for people to venture into, and if they move into towards that particular nature of business, maybe they get an additional support in terms of capital, all right, to build up that particular business from the government. So if you have that kind of support, perhaps you can be more successful there as compared to others. And what about in terms of labor? That's where we talk about, okay, skilled or unskilled labor. We are talking about the source of what? Source of your workforce. If you are able to get it within the area that you are operating, it will be much easier and it will be much cheaper for you. If you are supported by that particular environment, then you will be able to be successful. Especially when we talk about skilled labor that enables you to create something that is rare, valuable, difficult to imitate, and basically creating competitive advantage. Apa maksud dia? Rapidly and efficiently deployed. You can get it fast and you can actually use it immediately. All right. So this would give you a lot of advantage. And another one will be demand conditions. Perhaps in the context of Jimmy Choo just now, when we talk about the support that they have, it's not so much on the factors condition, but you can see that they are very much, I think from the factors condition, the labor might be the one that supports his business more, because there are in the European countries, okay, fashion is something that is very much, I would say, well established during that particular time as compared in Malaysia, especially in the 50s or in the 60s. Not so much of becoming a fashion designer. If you're a fashion designer back then, I don't know how would you be able to be famous back then as compared to now. All right. So because of that particular reason, he's very much supported in the European countries, especially in the UK, because fashion is something that is well established in those particular countries back then. And because of that particular reason as well, all right, there are a lot of support in that sense, okay, when it comes to the factors condition there. So it's easy for him to actually find people who are in fashion to help him build up his business as compared to in Malaysia. Because when we talk about in Malaysia back then, during the 50s and 60s, people in Malaysia are talking about survival. Okay? We are not talking about fashion at that point of time. We are talking about how to live. People couldn't be bothered about fashion. So there's no support in that sense. So having skills in that particular context, okay, perhaps it's not well demanded. So that's the reason why, okay, he flew to the European countries, and where it is well established then, and that's where he can build up his particular business. However, when you look into the context of demand condition here, all right, people in the Europe do set a certain standards for his products. And because of that reason as well, and now that most Malaysians are having that capabilities in terms of dollar and cents. Okay? People are, I would say, the purchasing power among Malaysians are getting higher. And people starts to look into status as one of those particular criteria for them to actually be famous in certain contexts. So because of that particular reason as well, all right, you will see that why now that Jimmy Choo is able to come in Malaysia, because of why? Because that people in Malaysia are now able to actually purchase his products. All right. So this is how demand condition basically makes certain business able to create their demands in certain countries. Any question?
No, madam.
No, madam. Ha. Nak jawab no pun susah ni. Okay. What about in terms of related and supporting industries? What do you think are related supporting industries? Like I mentioned to you just now, all right? In order for you to venture into certain nature of business, you need to get some of the raw materials. And perhaps, okay, you can easily get it in certain places, but you are not able to get it in other places. So if you are there where all these particular related and supporting industries that can provide you with good raw materials, you will be able to basically be more competitive in that sense. All right. What about firm strategy, structure, and rivalry? So basically, when you talk about firm strategy, if let's say your business, okay, you are able to come up with a solid strategy and structure, you will be able to actually compete with other markets, whether it is within the country or outside the country. All right. So that's where strategy and structure plays an important role. So this is basically an example of how Potter's diamond actually being used to analyze the competitiveness of certain businesses. So in this particular context, they are analyzing India's diamond, okay, in software. Why do you think that this particular business can be successful? Basically, not in India, but basically can move forward abroad. What do you think? We're talking about Indians company, software company. Why do you think that they are able to be famous in the US? Why do you think that they have domestic rivalry? Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. 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 All right. Yes. So basically, you're talking about how this particular this software company starts in India. In India, there are so many people who are very good in this developing this particular software, and we're talking about software engineers. Most of them are in India. In India, you don't have much support in terms of the demand locally in India, because why? When you talk about software, it's not cheap. And because they are fighting among each other, to get customers within India, they are not able to survive. And because of the skills that they are able to develop, if from the background that they have, that's where they start to grow in the US. Because why? Because of the skills that they have are very well accepted in the US market, and US market is now moving forward towards technology, and that's the reason why basically that they are able to flourish in the US instead of in India. And in the US, they have a lot of related and supporting industries that can support their software business. Okay, and we're talking about international expansion. What basically motivates a company to move towards international expansion? What do you think? Yes, for wider markets, basically, sometimes when you expand your business overseas, you are able to actually get the economies of scale. Why? What's the relationship with wider market and economy of scale? What's the
With
relationship?
wider
Yeah, go ahead.
with wider market, the demand of the product can be increased, and when the demand increase, so we can increase the product to supply. So when increase product can decrease cost for
Yep.
many products.
So basically we are talking about once you have wider market, you have more customers, can produce a lot. And when it comes to production cost, it helps to reduce the cost of production. And that's the reason why people go overseas, because sometimes their market in one particular country has already saturated. That means you cannot get more profit as what you are getting now. Because why? That's the only market that you have. So your market does stagnant. All right. So that's the reason why some companies decide to move outside. And another one is basically you are talking about arbitrage opportunities. Always remember, sometimes you get more profit by selling at a higher price in certain countries as compared to getting a profit in a certain countries. All right. Why? Because we are talking about different market segment will have a different ability to pay. Okay, that means we are talking about their level of purchasing power. Sometimes one particular same products can be very expensive in certain countries, and sometimes it can be cheaper in certain countries. So if you are selling that product, you are able to get the benefit of these arbitrage opportunities. Alright? One country boleh jual RM500, satu country you hanya boleh jual RM50 je. Okay, so basically you are able to get that arbitrage opportunities punya advantage. And sometimes as well, you are able to extend your product life cycle. Sometimes people maybe in Malaysia doesn't accept that product anymore, but in certain countries, people just about to look at the products and have interest on the products, and it's baru start growing in that particular other country. So that's the reason why you move away. All right. Okay, so this is why some of the examples, all right? So kalau value chain, okay, kebanyakan automobile industry, okay, automobile industry, especially like Toyota, okay, how they take advantage of this is that they can get cheaper labor in Indonesia. That's the reason why some of those particular factory to make cars are actually being set up in that particular country. Why? When the labor cost is cheap and the rest of materials are cheap, they are able to sell the car cheaper. And sometimes we are talking about knowledge transfer and you are able to learn from another country. And if to some business, they would like to explore on reverse innovation. Okay, what is reverse innovation? This is something interesting. We always talk about sophisticated items. But because we are so sophisticated in terms of technology, we forgot about the third world countries who are not there yet. So how are you going to create a product that can serve those countries, all right, which are not sophisticated yet, but they still need that particular product? So basically, you are having this particular reverse innovation.
Ada.
Yes.
Contoh kan macam Nike
Huh? Yep.
kasut Nike tu kan.
Mm.
Dia kan based from US. From US. So tapi dia tak buat kasut tu, tapi dia outsourcing manufacturing tu dekat China, Indonesia, Vietnam.
So basically why they do that? Just supaya dia boleh reduce cost. So bila dia boleh reduce cost, dia boleh jual murah sikit harga kasut.
Okay.
Alright? So basically, okay. So when we talk about reverse innovation, okay, bila you go to third world countries, for example, alright, kita kat sini sibuklah dengan wifi lah apa-apa benda kan. Okay. Tapi bila you pergi certain places yang tak dapat that particular connection, you have to think of a way how you are able to do online. That's where you need to create maybe a certain product that are able to capture the wave from other places so that dia boleh divert ke places yang tak ada wifi. So that's what we meant by reverse innovation. No matter how do I say, no matter how sophisticated, advanced you are, but there are still places that do not have that technology. So how are you going to ensure that the places where you don't have that technology can also enjoy that same particular output? So you need to find a way. You need to innovate in a way that you are able to actually make them still able to use technology. Simple as PDPR. In certain places, right? In certain places, you dapatlah Wi-Fi connection. But in certain places, people cannot actually use, cannot even go for class. How are you going to actually ensure that they can have classes as well? So you must create a medium. Okay, you must create a medium that enables you to actually ensure that people who doesn't have Wi-Fi can also enjoy going for classes. So the invention of that particular medium is called as reverse innovation. Faham? Yep. You cakap apa? Ada dengar suara je. Lepas tu tak dengar apa you cakap.
Oh, saya cakap faham.
Apa dia?
Saya cakap faham idea.
Tak faham.
Faham, faham.
Faham ke tak faham ni?
Faham.
Cuba jelas sikit. I tak dengar sangat suara you ni. Faham ke tak faham? Hello.
Hafiz cakap faham, madam.
Okey, sebab suara dia tak jelas. Okey. You punya internet line okey tak? Eh. Okay, why not?
Okay.
Kadang-kadang okay.
Okay, why not? Okay, you take 5 minutes break. Okay,
Then, thank you.
alright, take 5 minutes break. Saya rasa you all kelas daripada pagi ni. Kan?
Dia bagi.
Okay. Take a break. Okay, let's come back. All right. Okay. This is one of the risks. Basically, macam mana ni? Okay. Oh. Okay. Doesn't mean that when you decided to go for international expansion that you are not subject to any risk. Okay. Sometimes you might fail because of many reasons. One of those particular reasons that may make you fail, okay, is the political risk. Depending, when I say political risk, it depends on which country that you are planning to expand your business. Okay, for example, now that basically, okay, people are looking at, I would say Iraq, or you decided to open up your business in Afghanistan. So basically, those are the places that are risky. So if you decided to expand your business, even though there are future of your business will flourish, but there's always risk there. Right now, the risk that we are facing is the risk of lockdown once again. So if, let's say, you decided to expand your business in places where this particular new variant of COVID-19 just started, all right? So basically, high chances that you will face lockdown there first before you are able to actually build up your business. And there are also things like economic risks, where you'll find that the currency can also be one of the reasons why, okay, your business might be at risk. And places whereby there are mafias, okay, there are a lot of mafias, and if you open up your business there, high chances that you might be successful or you might not be successful in those particular area. All right, so those are some of the international expansion risks that you might face. Okay, currency risk, same goes to management risk. Okay, if you open up a business there, you employ people from there to work with you, high chances you might have management risk. Especially when it comes to culture, you might face culture risk. Okay, the culture risk will be the clash of culture. Okay, sometimes you're talking about language where you are not able to actually communicate, which make it more difficult. So these are the little things that you have to actually consider as well. One way for you to manage those particular risks is basically by either doing outsourcing or offshoring. That means when you outsource to that particular business, okay, in that particular country, so you are not employing local people here in Malaysia to work there. Basically, you are going to actually give that particular business to your partner in that particular country. Okay, instead of you opening up your business there, having a factory there, right? But what you can do is in managing those risks, like, cultural risks, things like that, is by doing outsourcing or offshoring. Basically, you are giving the opportunity to them to become your partner, right? Where your partner will actually manage the business there, all right? All right. So basically, okay, other things are managing risk, is offshoring. What do you understand by offshoring? Outsourcing, I think you understand them well, right? But what do you understand by offshoring? Offshoring ni considered as one of apa? Kiranya outsourcing juga. Tapi apa beza dia?
Outsource tu kita guna source luar untuk buat kerja kita. Tapi kalau offshoring tu kita transfer kerja kita dekat tempat lain je.
Uh-huh. So, what's the difference then dengan outsource tu?
Outsource tu using other firm. Tapi offshoring tu kita firm kita lagi. The company lagi.
So,
Kalau outsource tu company luar.
so basically you are saying, all right, offshoring is basically, all right, you are using another company to help you in your business, right? It's an outsource, right? Are you saying that way?
I'm saying outsourcing tu using other firm to
Uh-huh.
do our work.
Other firm to do our work. Yeah.
Contoh kalau offshoring ni our firm but at different places macam branches macam tu. Bukan ke madam?
Okay. Okay. There are two types of basically apa? When you talk about offshoring, outsource tu okay lah. Outsource tu memang very clear cut, right? It's very clear cut that you are asking other company to actually basically do the work for you, all right? But when it comes to offshoring is how would it be different then? It's still your own business. Okay, it's still your own business. That's what you said, correct? All right. But basically, there are certain processes or activities of your business which you actually kiranya apa? You relocate that particular activity to another country to do it for you, but that particular business is still your business. Okay. What would be the example of this particular offshoring? Petronas. Lagi? Apa lagi? Offshoring selalunya you relocate business process to another country. Toyota is one of them that I mentioned to you. Tadi is one of those strategy that they are using is also offshoring. Maknanya tempat dia assembly line dia semua dibuat dekat another country. But that particular business in that country is still there. It's still Toyota, right? It's Toyota Indonesia perhaps. So Toyota Indonesia dia ada khas, dia buat kereta apa sahaja. So basically this is what offshoring is all about. Why it can, yeah? Yes, basically most of the time it's operation. Netflix call center it can be the new way of offshoring. Kalau dia still, dia asalkan tak ada apa? Does Netflix still have control over it? Yeah. So macam Google, dia ada at every in most countries, it's the same thing. It's a new way of offshoring. Dia ada juga terms of apa offshoring ni, dia ada reshoring lah, inshoring lah, insourcing lah. So these are the details of it. So basically what you can see, what you need to know is the difference between both outsourcing dengan offshoring. Outsource ni basically apa? You are giving some other business to actually do it. Kiranya you tak ambil tahu lah kiranya. Basically.
Madam, macam
Ya.
Nike lah kan?
Nike ada dua-dua.
Oh, okay. Jadi manufacturing dia tu outsourcing.
Okay. Dia ada dua-dua. Dia ada certain part tu dia memang apa, if the name of the company, kalau dia kata Nike China, is basically that's offshoring. Kalau it's a totally different business that you engage to actually do the manufacturing for you, it's not Nike China, that is outsourcing.
Oh, okay. Thank you, madam.
All right. Any other question? Okay. This one you see sometimes, okay, this one you kena tengok dia punya legal entity sebab ada certain outsourcing ni looks like offshoring sebabnya mungkin dia dah bagi another company to manufacture tapi company tu nak guna nama Nike. That is the thing kalau you look detail out. Sebab tu kalau you baca kadang-kadang outsourcing can also be termasuk offshoring. Ada setengah company tu memang company dia buka dekat China. Ada setengah dia, okay, dia hire company lain to do certain activities of making that particular shoes on their behalf. Lepas tu pakai their brand name. So this is where you need to be clear. So Nike basically dia punya terms dia pakai apa? Outsourcing, offshoring. In business, you can do the apa kata orang you can actually mix and match the strategies depending on what products that you are producing. Sometimes some products you outsource, some products you buat offshoring. So basically one company can do many things to actually manage the risk. Alright? So bukannya katanya international strategy, you have only one and you only use that one. For one particular company, you have various strategy and your strategy changes depending on what would be the implication coming from the external and internal environment. Alright? You cannot stick to only one strategy. Strategy sometimes work now, but later it might not work anymore. So you'll have new emerging strategy, right? So this is where you need to be agile in that context. Basically, adapt to to your environment. As it change, you try to adapt, right? So that's how you actually manage your risk. So basically, what is opposing pressures? What would be the kind of pressures that you might get if you go for these particular international strategies? This is something that you have to think of. Like some people, okay, especially the for example, like McDonald's, for like Domino Pizza, all right? There are certain products, okay, certain pizzas or certain, burgers or whatever that they are producing are the standard one, okay, which is the same all around the world. And they also have the types that are specifically for the local market, like rendang pizza, things like that, prosperity burgers, all right? Those are some of those products that they use where they are trying to adapt to the local environment. So these are some of the opposing pressures that you might actually face, all right? So there are certain products which can be accepted by all, and there are certain products that you need to adapt to the local market. Kalau pergi tempat lain ada ke jumpa bubur MACD? I rasa macam tak ada je. Kita sini je ada bubur MACD tu. Or maybe in other parts that eat porridge might have. But perhaps the taste or the kind of porridge that they have might not be the same. So one thing that's very important that you have to bear in mind is this is a good, I would say, tagline. One size fits all does not generally apply. So before you move to other countries, think about it carefully because of this particular social and demographic factors that may not be the same as your local company. All right. So this is something that you have to be very careful of as well. So basically this model is the strategies to address the opposing pressures. Okay, there are two types of pressure. There are pressures to lower the cost, okay, and there are pressure to adapt to the local environment, okay, local adaptation. So basically, if let's say the pressure for local adaptation is very low, and the pressures to lower cost is low and low and low, so basically you may go for this particular international strategy. But if there's a pressure to lower the cost, it's actually getting higher, but at local adaptation pressure is lower, then you may go for the global strategy. So these are the 4 types of strategy that you may go for. So this particular model can help you to decide on which particular strategy is best for you to pursue with during that particular time. It doesn't mean that you use international strategy now that it will be there forever to help you. It might not. You have to analyze the environment, the situation that you are at that particular point of time. That's why you have to be very careful. Okay? So basically, for you to pursue with the international strategy, if let's say you have a holding company that actually, or here it calls as a parent company, you need them to actually look at which particular market that they should actually move to. All right. So whoever decide to go for the international strategy, they must be competent enough. The company must have someone who's competent enough to tell you that, okay, which particular market is best for you to penetrate. Right. So the parent company must be of knowledge in that sense, because as a subsidiary, okay, you are a business unit. So the strategy that you are having is basically mostly are related to business level strategy. So let's say if business unit wanted to actually move to other places, we are talking about expanding. The holding company must have that knowledge and capabilities to look at the potential worldwide market. All right. You cannot just simply say, okay, you go to open a factory there or whatever. No. As a parent company, you must always analyze the environment. All right. See which particular country is best for you to actually move to. Okay. And why parent company? Because the parent company normally are those who who actually decides on the corporate level strategy. All right. SBUs are those who are executing the business level strategy. So that's where, if we are talking about moving forward, all right, strategic direction, we are talking about the role of the parent company. If, let's say, you have holding and subsidiary kind of structure, right? That's why structure plays an important role for you to actually see which particular strategy would actually, would be well suited your company when you decided to actually move forward. All right. Structure tu penting. Sebab apa? Ada setengah structure, especially tall structure, it can hinder you from moving forward. And other certain type of structure that are too flexible, making your company is exposed to so much risk. And there are certain type of structure which can actually hold your company together. So later on, we are looking into all this particular mechanism to see how you are able to actually move forward successfully. Okay. Structure can be one of the elements that can hinder you from moving successfully. So you need to find the correct structure. That one, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember, it's chapter 10 or chapter 9, where we talk about structure. So these are the strengths and the limitations of the international strategy. Definitely the strength is you are able to actually leverage. Okay, you are able to actually leverage on the parents' firm's knowledge. What does this mean? And compatibility, what does it mean? That means if you have your parent company have that capability of bringing you to the next level and in creating values globally, then you should take that particular advantage. All right. Adaptability can be your limitation. Yang ni you boleh cook up sebenarnya is logic. Alright. You dah biasa kat Malaysia, kalau you pergi luar, apa cabaran yang you will face basically. And that actually, okay, what limits you from moving forward? And what would be the strength that you can actually exploit when it comes to going towards international strategy? kita ada global strategy. So this is part of the 4 items just now. Kita ada international strategy tadi, global strategy, multinational and apa tadi? This one. Multi-domestic strategy and transnational strategy. These are the criteria of going for the global strategy. And basically, most of the products, okay, that you are producing are basically standardized products that you are able to sell it worldwide, and once you are able to sell it worldwide, basically you are increasing the production, and when your production increase, you are able to reduce your cost. Okay, so that's basically what global strategy is all about. Dia lebih kepada this one, more in lowering cost. So you read on this particular strength and limitations, right? What about multi-domestic strategy? Different products, different service, okay, that you are going to actually provide in order for you to adapt to the local markets. Basically, you know that people in Shah Alam like what, people in Johor like what, so you'll be selling different things, different services to these particular states. So basically that is multi-domestic strategy. Right. What about transnational strategy? What does it mean, a company that seeks global competitiveness via trade-offs? What is it that you're trying to get, basic from the transnational strategy? What do you understand by this? Apa maksud dia global competitiveness via trade-offs? One of the best example for this is basically your KFC and your McDonald's, like I mentioned to you. Kenapa? Ada setengah tempat you boleh benefit from the standard products that you are selling. Ada setengah places that you need to adapt to the local taste or the local market. All right. And that's why you see, I don't know whether you notice or not, you pernah pergi ke apa? I notice sekarang, especially kedai yang jual apa? Nasi Arab. If you ask me, frankly speaking, if you ask me, when I go to certain restaurants, for example, if you're talking about Italian ke Arabic ke, I like to go for the local taste. Basically, you janganlah ubah, biar dia original. So if you're talking about going to Kelantan, don't try to give me something that's not Kelantan, you know. So I go there, I want to taste the food, I want to actually enjoy the local delicacies, not something that people have already modified to suit the needs of the tourists. No, I go to that particular place because why? I want to enjoy that particular local delicacies, the local culture, and understand them and learn from it. Okay, so if let's say you change it, all right, for certain places, yes, you change. So I don't quite like when you start to change particular cuisine to suit the local taste. Kedai Arab banyak buat sekarang ni in such that, okay, when you go, selalunya dia punya kuah tu the tomato sauce, I would say, is it? Okay, dia punya tomato gravy tu sepatutnya original. Tapi sekarang ni dah ada cili padi, you know, it's actually like trying to adapt to the local punya markets. Okay. If you ask me, I don't go to those particular shops because it's not authentic anymore. So because why? And that's the reason why you need to actually understand what do you go for. So basically you need to maintain some original menus if you are operating a restaurant, and there are some that suits the locals. Only then you can maintain both market. So this is basically what transnational strategy is all about. Any question?
No, madam.
Faham?
Okay.
Ya. Mana? So you are talking about technology ke? Okay. To what extent? Okay, depends on how it is actually being developed and for what purpose. And when we talk about a certain technology, all right, if you're talking, yes, we are talking about algorithm. So when we talk about that, why do people go for that? Apa maksud dia sebenarnya? Dia macam mana? Dia macam contextual. What do you understand by that contextual? What do you understand by contextual? Algorithm, especially algorithm strategies, ni dia contextual. Do you understand what is contextual? Contextual means, okay, basically this strategy is trying to solve certain practical applications, right? Okay, so if your problem is related to only your business, that means you are setting it to solve your problem, but not to other people's problem. Okay, so if other people want to solve their problem, they will actually make it in such that it would solve their problem. So it's contextual. You understand what I mean? Okay. Sebab dia banyak take into consideration the uncertainty that your business is actually facing. So dia akan tailor-made towards your uncertainty as compared to another. Mungkin cara dia solve your problem and the solution for you is not the same as solution for another one, even if you are in the same type of business. Because nowadays, I think, macam mana nak cakap, nowadays it's not about, if you still remember, it's not about one size fit all. If you want to be different from others, basically you need to actually have a model that enables you to actually dia macam flexible lah in that sense, that can accommodate banyak areas. And not just banyak areas, satu lagi dia boleh help you with apa? Solving something yang in a realistic punya situation tau, bukannya theoretical. Sometimes it's in the book, but when you apply it in practice, it doesn't work. So this particular algorithm is about, okay, trying to help you solve problem practically. So that's what it is all about, okay? What about going global or regional? Depends on what you are selling. And depending on what are the type of markets that you are going for. If the kind of products that you have, basically kalau you dekat Malaysia ni, the kind of products yang ada almost similar culture and language in Indonesia, Brunei, alright, or Singapore, perhaps you may be able to actually penetrate the market there first before you go for global. Sebab apa? Our culture, walaupun taklah the same 100%, but at least some of it are almost the same, and you are able to gauge the kind of needs and the interest of that particular market, especially when it comes to food. All right, this is something that you may look may need to look at, especially when you decide to open a factory in those particular countries, or you decided to actually penetrate the new market in those particular countries. Sometimes you tend to look for the similarities first, okay, trying to test the market, and then only you go 100% to create your business or to set up your business in that particular country. And in setting up your business, there's always a slower way of doing it, and there's always a faster way of doing it. All right. Slower way of doing it is called as organic growth, right? A faster way of doing it is about what? Merging, acquisition, joint venture, things like that. Okay. Organic growth maksudnya you set up your company there from the scratch. So basically, this is how you enter into this particular market. Okay. It's either you go for export, licensing or franchising, or you go for strategic alliance or joint venture, or you may want to acquire another company, or you want to have a wholly owned subsidiary in that particular country. All right. So these are some of the ways. Ada yang You just send your products there, but your main operation is here. All right. Some perhaps you do franchising. Yeah, I think you understand what franchising is. Okay, you pay for the license to actually operate that particular outlet here in Malaysia. Or you may have a strategic alliance or joint venture with another company in that particular country. All right, instead of opening up 100% there, maybe you have a partner in that country to actually sell some of the product of yours in that particular country. Or you may open up your own business there. When you say wholly owned subsidiary, there are two ways. It's either you acquire another company there or you set up your own. Sini yang I kata bila you set up your own, basically it's organic. Okay. Kalau you acquire, that's already, it's non-organic. This is how you enter into those market. Okay, this is the model that you can actually look at. Bila your risk is actually low and the degree of ownership and control is low, you will start with exporting. As it gets higher, you go for licensing, franchising, strategic alliance, joint venture, and wholly owned subsidiary. Okay, so basically these are some of the models that can help you with deciding which particular entry modes that best suit your company if they want to go for international expansion. Okay, so that's all. Any question?
No, madam.
Sekejap, cepat je Nur ni dah pukul 12.30. Lapar ke? Alright.
Lapar.
Lapar. Be honest. Kan bagus macam tu. Kalau kita face to face boleh bawa food.